Few in the video game industry are as celebrated and held in such high regard as Hideo Kojima. Known for cinematic style and being the father of the stealth genre, he's brought joy and excitement to millions. Let's take a look at how he got there.
What took you so long?
Kojima was born in Tokyo, but moved to the Kansai region at a young age. Kojima's parents were busy people, and due to his father's work, they moved around a lot. Though the parents were busy, they loved their child very much, and they spent time together as a family when they could. One such activity, that Kojima still does to this day, is watching a movie. His parents loved film, his father especially. They'd watch a wide variety of genres, but they particularly liked Western-made movies. Unlike most parents who enforce a bedtime, Kojima's parents had a rule that they had to finish watching the movie. Not all these movies were, well, age-appropriate. Another activity Kojima and his father shared was building plastic models. His father was extremely detail-oriented, a trait that quickly rubbed off on Kojima. In school, Kojima was known to be very creative. He was always thinking of stories. Even when looking at something mundane, he couldn't help but imagine something much more exciting. His parents encouraged this gift, and when Kojima said he wanted to be a filmmaker in the future, both parents were thrilled. Unfortunately, Hideo lost his father to illness at the young age of 13. Initially, his passing strengthened his resolve to become a filmmaker. In junior high school and high school, he made a few films with his friends. Though as he got closer to university, he began to see the world a bit more realistically. After his father died, money became really tight. He was encouraged by relatives and teachers to pursue something more stable, something profitable. Within his family, he had an uncle who was an artist, a struggling artist. And in the end, Kojima decided to go to university to study something stable: economics. In the 80s, the video game industry was still immature, but games like the Super Mario Bros. And Portopia serial murder case caught Kojima's eye. He thought this new platform could be a way to tell stories, to make an interactive movie. In spite of majoring in economics, Kojima decided to pursue a career as a video game designer, a dream his friends and family laughed at, and strongly discouraged. Well, all except for one: his mother. She was the only one encouraging Hideo to go for what he wanted. And Kojima landed a job at Konami. Interesting side note here. Kojima chose Konami, not because of the games they had made, but because they were the most stable. They were listed on the stock exchange. At the time, it was a feat not even Nintendo had achieved. Kojima thought picking a big company like that might help people see his job in a better light. Kojima was brought on as a planner and designer. Upon entering Konami, he found he was in a place with very like-minded individuals. Artists, writers, musicians. They all saw video games as a kind of second chance. After a rocky start, Kojima was assigned to a project that was having difficulties. That project? Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
Originally an action-oriented war game, the MSX's hardware was having trouble displaying everything on the screen. Hideo had an idea, but due to his young age and inexperience, he was snubbed by his seniors. Through persistence, he was finally able to get one of the higher-ups to listen to his idea. Inspired by the sneaking scenes of The Great Escape, Kojima proposed they change the focus to emphasize stealth. His idea not only made the game more playable on the MSX, but provided a new kind of gaming experience. The team jumped on board, and they created a series which would be a pivotal part of Konami's sales, so much so that it would have its own category in its company earnings reports. The MSX is a rather obscure system, but I'd like to note, had Kojima been placed in the Famicom department, a risky, more mature kind of game never would have received an okay. Eventually the game was ported to the Nintendo, but the game's large size and Konami's strict deadline forced changes and cuts to be made. Most notable, the removal of the Metal Gear boss fight. They replaced it with a computer. Kojima was disappointed by the port, to say the least. Seeing the success of Metal Gear, Konami planned a sequel for the Nintendo. Since Kojima worked in the MSX department, he wasn't asked to be on the team. In fact, he knew nothing about the sequel until he bumped into one of the designers on the train. The designer said they had done their best, but felt only Kojima could create a true sequel. After hearing this, he asked Konami for permission to work on a sequel on the MSX. Following its success, Kojima was really moving up in Konami. Kojima wanted to make games like movies, but at the time, there was a lot of hardware limitations. Snatcher and Policenauts relied on animation to tell a powerful narrative. But when Kojima learned of the PlayStation 1's hardware specifications, he knew he could finally make a game with beautiful cinematography. He assembled a team and began working on Metal Gear Solid. Kojima wasn't interested in following trends or meeting sales quotas. He had his vision of how the game was to be. And when he learned the game was selling like crazy in the West, he couldn't believe it. Metal Gear Solid made him an international star in the video game community, and Konami was thirsty for a sequel. Before Metal Gear Solid 2, Kojima was developing the Zone of the Enders franchise, which Konami would use to promote MGS2. With a bigger budget and a more powerful console, Metal Gear Solid 2 delivered an enthralling experience to players and met the numbers Konami wanted. Konami once again wanted a sequel. However, in development of MGS2, Kojima felt he had reached a limit in what he could do with the franchise, and he had intended to pass Metal Gear on to another team. Though when Kojima saw what the new team was doing with Metal Gear 3, he felt it wasn't up to his level of quality, and returned to design Metal Gear 3. Kojima wanted to end his involvement in the Metal Gear series, something fans and Konami didn't want. A few crazy fans even sent him death threats, demanding he design Metal Gear 4. It's said that this incident helped influence his decision to once again take the helm. Though, personally, I think Kojima may have been interested in seeing just how close he could make a video game feel like a movie. And MGS4 had an abundance of cutscenes.
I know.
In 2012, Metal Gear Solid 5's development was confirmed. In that same year, Kojima was brought onto a new project to revive the Silent Hill series. Both games had a big budget and ample time to produce the game. Things were looking up. But in Konami, a shift in power had begun. Meet Hideo Kojima, producer of the mobile game Dragon Collection. His ideologies greatly differed from Kojima, and he believed Konami's future was in mobile gaming. A hungry businessman that was pulling in fast profits. He climbed the corporate ladder quickly and gained a lot of influence. Konami was changing and placed stricter deadlines and tighter budgets on game developers. Micromanagement of creative workers also became very severe. Surveillance cameras were installed, and workers were asked to log everything they were doing. This new style of management put a great strain on those with creative roles in the company. Even Kojima was forced to speed up development of Metal Gear 5, and as a result, the game was broken up into two parts, a prologue and the main game. By 2015, tensions between Konami and Kojima had reached a boiling point. Hideki Hayakawa became the president of Konami Digital Entertainment and put his mobile-first gaming strategy into full swing. The big-budgeted Silent Hills game was cancelled, and MGS5 was rushed to complete its deadline. Konami had finally pushed Kojima too far, and he left, and took his whole production team with him. In December of that year, Kojima Productions became independent from Konami. And I guess that kind of brings us up to the present day. Kojima is working on Death Stranding, and it looks amazing. In closing, what Konami did was utterly despicable, but I feel it's worth mentioning that if it weren't for Konami's quest for profits, fans probably wouldn't have received the sequels and spin-offs they so desperately wanted. Anyway, I sincerely hope Death Stranding will be a smash hit, because success is the best revenge.